wrote my first performance poem when I was 10. We had this thing in school where everyone was asked to write a poem in the class, and I think at that age I kind of knew what kind of poem our teachers wanted us to write, and I went for kind of like my first and last political activist piece. And it's why I don't have any poetry from my teenage years, because I think even at that age I'd finished it and then I read it out and I was so ashamed of myself that I didn't write anything again. But the teachers made me read it out in assembly, and I read it out to my peers, and I was gave them some pretty damning looks as well. It was untitled and it was quite punchy, but I think you'll agree it kind of captured the zeitgeist and kind of pretty hard hitting. Okay, it went, I was 10 at the time as well, so it went, a battery hen is dead again. Another person starves, and all because of the greed of one animal. Ours. I.e. humans, right, that didn't scan. Neither does ours, really. And can I just point out, I don't, not that I want to really shit on like a 10-year-old's first attempt at poetry, but if you're going to contrast the cruelty of mass-produced food, if you're going to say that that is why humans are greedy, and then your next line is about humans starving to death, surely there's a logical inconsistency. The man who died of not eating is not in any way greedy. If anything, he should eat some more. But no. And I looked at the school of largely 9 and 10-year-old children, really scowling as I said that, as if to say, and it's your fault. The stupid choices you've made with your 20p pocket money a week is why this world's fucked up. So that was, I didn't really write anything after that. It didn't, it surprisingly didn't make me hugely cool with my peers. But what I did do is decide that I was going to become a novelist, because I was told that I was good at that. That was not on the basis of ever having written a novel. You'd be good at this. So at 15, this is my book, We Can't All Be Aspirants. I just want to read it a little bit with my novel in it. I should say that without irony, I decided to call this novel, it's not supposed to be a joke title as well, Psychic Rubber Nipples. That was supposed to actually be pretty hard hitting. At 15 I decided to attempt my first novel. I did so with the explicit motivation that even if I didn't end up producing the last great literary masterwork of the 20th century, I would at least create something that in years to come would give me some insight into what I had been like as a teenager. Rereading the manuscript over a decade later, my primary insight was that I'd been terrified of women. The novel tells the story of one Raymond Powers, a man in his late 20s who works in an import-export firm. Despite the fact that over half the book takes place at his office, neither Ray nor any of his associates are seen to do any work. Nobody ever discusses anything related to their job, aside from occasional nebulous references to a big client, and we never find out the name of the company he works for. Rather than being a wry Kafkaesque commentary on faceless workplace bureaucracy, his almost total absence of detail stemmed from the fact that I had no idea what a job was. All I knew was that it was horrible, pointless, and soul-destroying. In the first chapter, I expand Ray's predicament into a searing indictment of corporate culture. All the hopes and aspirations of youth had petered out within the initial week of real work, leaving him empty. Suddenly, all the dreams that had still been possible died. Disillusionment with the repetitiveness and the inescapable system had dulled his soul and his drive. Now he was dying, losing another irretrievable piece of his personality every day in his efforts to keep on working, to stay in the game. From there on in, things only get edgier. Ray starts smoking drugs. And finds himself repeatedly visited by a bizarre female ginger-haired dagger-wielding gobshite who giggles and chats intricate nihilistic bollocks. In a series of awkward quasi-S&M encounters, Ray faints, wets himself, lets her pin him on the floor and humiliate him. Eventually Ray shrugs off the shackles of his old existence, burns down the office and sets off to wreak giddy havoc throughout the world, viciously amoral and liberated by his discovery that life has no meaning. I needed help writing this book, and the only person who would listen to me reading out bits from it, the only other writer I knew was my grandma. And so I would write like 3,000 words, and then I'd phone my gran, and I'd go, I've got a new bit for you. And like that's why like I've got the original manuscripts on my book. I couldn't there's one bit that I remember reading to her over the phone that is essentially someone having a dream about an orgy in practice, with people having sex in 2s and 3s and shitting in each other's mouths. And I like phoned up my grandma and read that out. What do you think? My actual grandma. What do you think about that scene? I don't know whether she thought I was trying to give her some, or I was trying to make her feel unwell or something. I was just doing it to be horrible. But rereading the entire manuscript was one of the most excruciating experiences of my life. Not just because it was 95,000 words of dull, angsty, adolescent toss, but because I could remember just how proud I had been, how intelligent, groundbreaking, and important I believed my work to be. Looking back at it was like watching my teenage self enjoying a slow, self-congratulatory wank. I thought I'd got the human condition sussed, and that my rare insight would dazzle readers the world over. It actually got all put. I put it up all online just when the internet was just starting out, and I didn't realise that it would last past my teenage years. So I think if you search for it, you might be able to find it, but please don't, because it's one of the, it's literally.
What's the title again?
It's called Psychic Rubber Nipples. The reason I called it that was because the reason it's called Psychic Rubber Nipples, just so you could get the full force of that, was like basically I was saying like love and happiness are like these like bottles we suck on to like just to get away from the fact that like life's like really shit and, and we should all be psychos and we should all be terrified of women. So yeah, that was my novel. Cheers.